Greetings everyone, Shalom. In a previous video, I stated my belief that the Dead Sea Scrolls were not written by the group of Essenes that Yeshua and John the Baptist come from. Let's call them the Nazorean Essenes. And I stand by that. You can go back and watch that video. The Nazorean Essenes did not write the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I believe that. I believe they were two separate groups. And there was the group that Josephus and Philo describe in their historical documents. And there was the group that lived in Qumran that wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. This group of Zadokite priests, about 300 people, 400 people were living there. The archaeology clearly shows that. But in the historical documents, we know that there were 4,000 or so Essenes. So there were two groups. There were probably more than two, okay? But at any rate, I do not believe, for many reasons, go back and watch the video. I explain it very clearly with charts and everything. There are very, very clear reasons for believing that the Qumran group, this group of Zadokite priests and their kin, did not, that they wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Nazorean Essenes of John the Baptist and Yeshua did not write those scrolls. But there's some nuance there. I've been doing a lot of studying, reading this book, The Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English. And there's useful information in here regarding the Essenes, especially in the introductions. So get these books if you don't have them already. But I do now think that the original community rule, I want to be clear, the original community rule, before it was redacted by the Zadokite priests, was in fact written by the Nazorean Essenes of Yeshua and John the Baptist. Okay? And I have specific reasons for believing that. Okay? So let me go through this. Now, in this book, The Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says, regarding the rule of the community, or the community rule, or community rules, you find it translated like 3 different ways, but although the Cave 1 scroll is the best preserved among the 12 copies of the work, comparison with the Cave 4 copies suggest that it contains a later, more developed form of the text. Okay? So let me repeat that. Although the Cave 1 scroll is the best preserved among the 12 copies of the work, comparison with the Cave 4 copies suggests that it contains a later, more developed form of the text. So when you do textual criticism, you always want to look at various manuscripts and compare them, contrast them, try to find out which is the original and which one was redacted and changed by later editors. And so here we can see that the Cave 4 copy is the original and that the Cave 1 copy was, in fact, redacted. Okay? And so that comes from the meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right? And in this book, The Complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English, it says the most significant peculiarities of 4Q SD, the K4 scroll, are the almost complete absence of the full spelling characteristic of the Qumran sectarian manuscripts, the different opening line, and a repeated failure to mention the priests, the sons of Zadok. For both its occurrences in Cave 1, Cave 4, read the congregation, an alternative reading likely to possess important historical implications. An alternative reading likely to possess important historical implications. Well, they don't tell you what those important historical implications are, unfortunately. But we can infer that what they're referring to is that the original Cave 4 manuscript that does not mention the Zadokite priests simply says the congregation, or probably the Yahad, the community. That's the original scroll. That's the original manuscript, and it's older. Okay, so it predates the Qumran sect of Zadokite priests. Okay, the Zadokite priests were in favor of animal sacrifice. They were in favor of slavery. Okay, they were far more apocalyptic. Go back and watch my previous video. I explain all of this. Okay, but it's not the same group that Yeshua and John the Baptist come out of. Okay, it's just it was a different group, right? And so in the in the cave, well, actually in both documents, it does refer to, you know, not sacrificing, not eating meat. Okay, so that's what leads me to believe that the community rule, and the Zadokite priests, I guess, forgot to edit out that detail when they were redacting it, but they did insert, you know, priests, sons of Zadok, the Zadokite priests, into the document, and they made some other changes, and they added a lot of stuff. The Cave 1, the Zadokite 1, manuscript is much longer than the Cave 4, the original. So that Cave 4 manuscript does predate this breakaway sect of Zadokite priests that settled in Qumran. And it does represent that original message of the Nazoraean Essenes, okay? But, yeah, I mean, if you want to look at, you know, the Damascus document, which is clearly a Zadokite document, it says, you know, no man shall sell clean beasts or birds to the Gentiles lest they offer them in sacrifice. No man shall defile himself by eating any live creature or creeping thing. Okay? They shall eat no fish unless split alive and their blood poured out. As for the locusts, according to their various kinds, they shall plunge them alive into fire or water. For this is what their nature requires. So they say it's okay to eat fish. They say it's okay to eat locusts. Okay? But they say don't eat any live creature or creeping thing. Yeah, but they say that you can eat fish and that you can eat locusts. So this is definitely different than what predates them. And they're okay with sacrifice. The archaeology shows that they were sacrificing animals in Qumran. Okay. This is the temple scroll. It says, it says they shall sacrifice it there. Well, first it says, you shall not slaughter it close to my sanctuary, for its flesh is tainted. You shall not eat in my city, which I sanctify by placing my name in it, the flesh of cattle, sheep, goat, which has not entered my sanctuary. They shall sacrifice it there, toss its blood to the base of the altar of holocaust, and shall burn its fat. When I have extend your frontiers, as I have told you, and if the place where I have chosen to set my name is too distant, and you say, I will eat meat, because you long for it, whatever you desire you may eat. And you may slaughter any of your small cattle or cattle which I give you according to my blessing, so on and so forth. Okay? But you shall firmly abstain from eating blood. Okay, and this comes from the temple scroll. So the Damascus document, the temple scroll from the Zadokite priests, clearly endorses sacrifice, clearly endorses eating some flesh and all of that. So this was written by the Zadokite priests. It does not represent the Nazorean Essenes, which we know that they were vegetarians. And that's the group that John the Baptist and Yeshua come out of. So almost all of the Qumran sect literature from the Dead Sea Scrolls was not written by that original Nazorean Essene movement. But I do believe that the original community scroll, before it was redacted by the Zadokite priests, does represent the teachings of the Essenes, that original movement that John the Baptist and Yeshua arise out of. Okay? So you can read it in here, the complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English. They have the Cave 4 community rule in here. Okay? So the Cave 4 manuscript of the community rule was most likely written by the original movement. before the breakaway sect of Zadokite priests moved to Qumran, which again, they were okay with eating meat, they were okay with sacrifice, they were okay with slavery, and they were extremely apocalyptic. And if you look at the War Scroll, I believe they were okay with violence. They were not pacifists by any stretch of the imagination. So there were two groups, probably more than two. But certainly that Dead Sea Scroll group, the Qumran group, does not represent the original Nazorean Essene movement. But the community rule from K4, the K4 manuscript, most likely does. And so it is a lens. We can look through that lens and see that original movement. Many blessings. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so.